Hold up, before you get to watching this video, let me talk to you for a second. Hit that bell down below and subscribe to the Fitz Take Podcast YouTube channel so you'll know when every episode is dropping or if something has been posted on this page. Also, be sure to follow me and Elijah on our social media platforms. They will be linked down in the description. Now back to the episode. What's good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into a special edition of the Fitz Take Podcast. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick, but you know you can always call me Fitz. He's your guy, Elijah Nixon, a.k.a. E-Money, a.k.a. Eli, over there with the fresh fade before Championship Saturday. That man feeling himself way too much right now. This is not even a midweeker. This is an episode right before the Sun Belt Championship that will be happening at Cajun Field here in Lafayette, Louisiana on Saturday, December the 7th, as Louisiana and the Marshall Thundering Herd will duke it out for the crown at Cajun Field at 6:30 p.m. That game will be airing on ESPN. Elijah will be covering that game in the house. I will be celebrating my mom. So before any of y'all come for me, it's for my mama. All right. Celebrating life, health, and strength. Praise God. Okay. But I'll be keeping my eye out on this and we'll definitely talk about it on the pod. So Elijah, this is your first conference championship game getting the cover, I think.
It will be, man. I'm like excited, like top tier excited. Especially because I know like the whole story behind this whole program and how Dez was like, I'm the only one that voted for him. To see how everything came in fruition, it being hosted here against who I think is another talented team against Marshall. So I'm expecting a good one. The only thing, I'm just praying that the rain hold off just a little bit. I don't think it's gonna happen, but hey, man, I mean, if everything go 100% right and something it's not gonna be right. So I guess the rain will be the only downfall.
Yeah, me and Rob Perillo, our chief meteorologist there at the station, were talking about that. So hopefully the elements will remain good for that matchup between the Herd and the Ragin Cajuns, which is really their third meeting all time. The last time they met was in 22, I believe it was, when UL beat the Herd 23-13. While the Herd were members of the Sun Belt. And then the first meeting was in the New Orleans Bowl in 2021. That was Dez's first official game as the head coach of the Ragin Cajuns there in the Caesars Superdome back in 2021. So how did we get here this season? Let's start with the Ragin Cajuns because they will be the team hosting. They finished the regular season at 10-2. They were 6-0 for the first time in program history. On the road. The only losses that they had on this season were against Tulane, who's playing for a conference championship this weekend, and South Alabama, who just missed out on having an opportunity to get a share of the West in the Sun Belt as well. They picked up big victories early in the season against Wake Forest, which, we were watching that game, and I remember Dez had a moment there where he, kind of took a minute to exhale. And you could just really tell that that victory meant a lot for them. This offense has been prolific throughout the season, averaging, I'm sure, well over 30 points a game, and just picking up key victories throughout the year. Meanwhile, their opponent in Marshall, they are 9-3 coming into this game. Their 3 losses are really good losses, in my opinion. I mean, you lose to Virginia Tech in week 2. You lose to a top 10 program in Ohio State the week after, and then you lose to Georgia Southern, who you were fighting against at the top of the Sun Belt East there on their side. So it's a very interesting matchup with a storied history between these two programs. They've had a chance to face off against each other in quite some battles. So Elijah, as you kind of look at this matchup, what are your thoughts about what we're going to see in this Saturday Sun Belt Championship game?
I think that we're going to see the similar game that we saw with Tulane and UL earlier in the year. I know we talked about that a little bit in our last episode, but I think that Tulane wants to establish the run. I think that Marshall wants to establish the run, and I think they're going to try their best to do that. So with that being said, this is a test that the Cajuns seen earlier in the year. So I think that they'll be well prepared for it. If it's going to rain on any day, I think this is the game because now it's going to come down to which I think is the most important part of the game for them is the trenches. I think the trenches on both sides is going to determine the outcome. I know we always say it takes 11, it takes 11. Well, that day's going to take 5, and we're going to see your 5 versus my 5, and see what we can do in that front 4, front 5 look. So I'm just ready to see how this thing goes, man. Marshall, I think they're a really good team. I think they're well coached. I saw some of the things they did against James Madison, which James Madison was a good team as well. But as you can see, they called their best plays at the right times. A 2-point conversion. That was a great call with the reverse pass. And that was another. It was. They missed. They didn't execute with the field goal because it was a block. But when it came down to the game and when the game was on the line, you saw their best plays out there, and their best players had the ball in their hands. So Marshall isn't something that you just want to chew and spit out. No, they're going to be there for a dogfight as well. So UL's going to have their work cut out for them. But again, UL has talented players, and so do Marshall. But to me, it's going to come down to the trenches. That's what it's going to come down. Can we execute blocks? Can we execute getting off blocks? We got to see how it's going to play out on that side.
Absolutely. I have to agree with you about this being a trench warfare in this one. Both teams aren't necessarily the best against stopping the run, but they both love to run the football. I think the main key for victory for either team in this one is going to be who can stop the other team's run game the fastest, and who can get off to a fast start scoring points. That's what it's ultimately going to come down to, because the sooner that you can turn a team into a one-dimensional focused team, you can pin your ears back. You can tell your guys to go after the quarterback. And so it should be interesting to see, man. I think that in terms of like what both teams want, they're both looking at the body of work that they have, and they're saying, like, this is our destiny to win this championship. We know there can only be one winner. You look on the east side with Marshall. I believe this is their third year, in the Sun Belt. And now this is their first appearance in the Sun Belt Championship. So they're the kind of the new kids on the block in this one. So they want to go ahead and establish themselves as a true member of the Sun Belt. Meanwhile, with Louisiana, you got Dez in there that this is his first appearance as the head coach of his alma mater, of his hometown team where he played at, in front of his hometown fans. Like, all of those different emotional elements that are going to be a part of this game. There's so many storylines that go into it outside of just what's going to be happening between those white lines. So it's going to be a fun one, man. I do hate that I'm going to miss out on the atmosphere of physically being there. But I truly believe that this is going to be one of the best games that we'll see this weekend and championship weekend across college football. As we're recording this episode on Thursday, the All Sun Belt team was released, and head coach Michael Desormeaux was named the coach of the year. In my opinion, very deservedly so. Quarterback Ben Woolridge was the offensive player of the year. Also deservedly so. It was the first time that that's happened for the Cajuns since 2014, when I think it was Elijah McGuire got it done back then. The Cajuns had 4 guys get first-team honors: AJ Gilly, Terrence Carter, Casey Osai, and Kenny Almendarez, who's up for the Lou Groza Award. Between the second and third team, Jordan Lawson, Tyrone Lewis, Tyree Skipper, Lance Lejeune, and Keon Martin. And then honorable mention, Zylan Perry, Jax Harrington, Mason Narcisse, and Carmicah Glass. When we're looking at the overall picture of things, I know defensive end or rush edge guy Mike Green for Marshall was the player of the year across the board. I'm trying to pull up the email with the press release that they sent out so I can fully get it for you guys. Overall, the Cajuns had 15 guys to make the cut in the All Sun Belt team. So Mike Green got player of the year. Like I said, Ben Woolridge, offensive player of the year. Marquise Watson, out of Georgia Southern was Defensive Player of the Year. Braxton Miller or Braylon Miller, excuse me, Braylon Braxton. I'm confused. Braylon Braxton. There we go. The Newcomer of the Year for Marshall, and then Ahmad Hardy for ULM, the freshman sensation who's now in the transfer portal, was the Freshman of the Year out of ULM. So the Cajuns, man, getting a league high 15 players on that list. Huge congratulations to those guys. What do you think about some of those names that we rattled off there on that list?
Well deserving. Well deserving. I think that offensively and defensively, I mean, I haven't been here as long as you have, but since I've been here, this has been one of the most complete teams that you've seen with UL. And with some of those linemen getting called, some of the offensive linemen and defensive linemen getting called, those are great. But one thing that I really want to say is Ben Waters. Ben was one of those guys that I thought Chandler was going to start, but Ben coming out, starting, proving himself, leading his offense into one of the, a really, really great season this year. Going down right before senior day, hurting his shoulder. To see his name on the list, I think, sometimes that gives somebody a boost, I'm not saying that Cajuns need it already because they're already playing for something that's important to them. But when you see a guy like, Ben, who was one of your fearless leaders, one of those guys that was putting on and seeing that he was named as one of the top guys in the Sun Belt this year, I think that that just put extra motivation out there because he can't be out there with him. So Ben had a tremendous season. I know this is his last season, and it sucks, how it ended. But hearing his name is one of the ones where I'm just, I'm kind of excited to hear that because he deserves it. And hopefully, this brings a smile to his face to say that, the work that he put in was well worth it. I mean, sometimes looking at his injury, you didn't get to finish it, but you get to see the fruition of it and saying the work that you put in was worth it.
No doubt, man. You mentioned about the guys on the offensive line. I don't know if I called his name, but Landon Burton also made the cut. Landon Burton and AJ Gilly, both on the first team. I mean, absolute staples, a part of the program. They were on the team when the Cajuns played in the Sun Belt Championship back in 2021. So they've been a part of it. They know what it looks like, and they've anchored this team up front to once again get to this position. So congratulations to all of those guys, all 15 Cajuns that made the All Sun Belt team. Congratulations to head coach Michael Desormeaux on getting Coach of the Year. And congratulations to all the other guys for also getting their postseason accolades from their respective teams. So now, guys, we're going to hear from the head coaches. They had their media availabilities on Monday morning ahead of this championship game. And there were a lot of different topics that came up throughout the press conference. And so we kind of broken some things down so you guys can be able to hear it, and then we'll talk about it as we go along the way. So one of the big things that stood out to me, and, I was live tweeting it and all of this stuff like that as the press conference was going on. Someone asked Coach Michael Desormeaux about the culture that's been built within this program. He gave a very well thought out answer that just, really spoke to the type of character that he is as a coach and the type of program that he's trying to build there at Louisiana. So let's hear from Coach.
What I hope it says is that these are guys that are still choosing to come here for the right reasons. We recruit young men and their families to come here because I know Louisiana is a special place. It's the best decision, I made in my life, aside from marrying my wife, was to attend the University of Louisiana and come to school here. This place is special to me. I say this all the time, and people, we use the hashtag culture here. We've used that for years, since Billy got here. And, everyone talks about culture, but we talk about it every day. And the thing I tell the players is this, they are responsible for the culture. The head coach gets all kind of credit, right, when things are good, and he gets all the blame when it's bad, and that's fine. But the reality of it is that the culture is built by the team. And, my job is to make sure that we as a staff are recruiting the right type of young men to come in here that are culture builders, because it never stays the same. Every day you're either building the culture or you're breaking it down. And that's a team-led thing. They are responsible. You know, the word culture comes from the root word that means to grow or to cultivate. So it's never stops. It's not something that's ever stagnant. And, you know, I think winning is a byproduct of having the right people who do things the right way. Everyone's got good players in this league. I mean, I told our staff this the other day. There's not one team that you go out there and look around and say, man, there's not one guy on that team that we would love to have here. I mean, we got a bunch that they would love to have. That's the way it works. So I think what it really comes down to is it comes down to making sure you have the right people in the building. And it's a bunch of guys that they do believe in each other. They chose to stay, I think, because they see the value in playing for the University of Louisiana. You know, and, you know, in a world where the grass is always greener somewhere else, you know, I mean, I'm the same way. I don't have any desire to leave this place. This is home for me. I want to build something here that lasts forever. And, you know, we have a senior-led group this year that they chose to do the same thing. So, you know, that's the culture that we want to continue to build. But again, it never stays stagnant. Just because you have it figured out one year certainly doesn't mean that, oh, well, this is it. This is just the way it is. You have to continue to work to grow and improve that. And these guys have left their mark here. We need the next group to stay and do the same thing.
That's Cajun head coach Michael Desormeaux talking about the culture that's being built in the program. And, you know, like he said, like in an age where people are saying that the grass is greener on the other side, like I truly believe that this is his dream job. Like he doesn't want to go anywhere. You know, it probably would have to be some crazy, you know, once in a lifetime type of offer to be presented to him for him to even remotely think about it. And I think that just speaks to the testament of how much this program means to him personally. You know, it's one thing to be invested in something that you helped, you know, to coach up, but it's another thing to be invested in something that you built up, literally himself building up in this program. And I believe he, you know, was the offensive player of the year back when he played there for Louisiana. And now to see it come full circle for him to become the coach of the year in the conference as well, just speaks to all of that. So the culture, man, that they've built, you know, like you said, they started referencing that when Billy Napier was the head coach, but they've carried it over. And it's something that in the state of Louisiana, we talk about it all the time, but those guys have truly embraced what it means to have a good culture within their program.
I agree. We talk about success a lot. And for you to have success, you have to have a great culture. And like you just explained it, it's like Des want to be there. So him wanting to be there makes probably the rest of the team want to be there. Think about it. Chandler Fields had plenty of opportunities to transfer. Instead, he settled in and became that backup. Guys like I can't think of the linebacker. Terrence Williams. Terrence Williams was a running back last year, and they said he's going to be a linebacker. If you're thinking if he want to just be selfish of himself, he's like, no, I'm transferring because I still want to be a running back. No, he gave the linebacker role a chance because the culture that was built in there that everybody believes in one another. And I think that that's something that carries a team. I know some people don't. I don't believe in morale victories either, but I do think it brings a long way of, you know, holding each other accountable. I think that it holds, you know, the team to a higher standard, setting that standard. I think that's what it is. And if you know, me being from Connecticut, Louisiana has some culture to it. So them having their culture, them having that locker room like that, it shows, man. It shows. So, you know, they take pride and want to win, but I think that they really take pride in loving and being around each other more and holding each other to that accountable to the higher standard of what they are. So Dez isn't speaking anything wrong. I think that, you know, no matter what happens on Saturday, this season will never be forgotten. It will not be thrown away and forgotten because of the special relationships and the special things that happen with this team. Can't speak about on and off the field. I'm not in the locker room with them, but on the field and how they love each other. So,
no doubt, man. Getting more into the ball game itself on Saturday. The key players that, you know, the Cajuns are going to be looking at offensively. They'll be looking at defensive lineman Mike Green. Like we said, he's the, you know, Sun Belt Player of the Year, and then newcomer of the year, Braylon Braxton, is somebody that they're going to look at defensively. They're going to be looking at him as a defense, they're going to be looking at him. Braylon Braxton transfers in from Tulsa, and this season he's had 1,400 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he's rushed, had 118 carries, 544 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So he's very much a dual threat. And Coach Dez definitely had some great things to say about him. They'll definitely be having an eye on him heading into Saturday. Let's hear from Coach Dez.
Well, the guy runs the ball like a running back. I mean, he's a really effective runner, first of all, and I think that's kind of where their game goes. You know, I mean, I think they've got a culture of toughness up there. You know, I mean, they're going to establish the run, and I think this guy kind of exemplifies it. You know, he runs the ball. He's got an unbelievable play strength. You know, most quarterbacks, it's not like that. You get a hand on them, they're down. This guy, he runs it like a dang running back. But you know, the thing I've been unfortunately surprised with is he throws it a lot better than I was hoping he was going to throw it. You know, watching tape, we didn't have a bunch of crossover with those guys. So, you know, this last couple of days, the first time I got to see him, I think he does a heck of a job. I think, you know, they've got some big wideouts on the outside that get open. They've got a slot guy that's got some juice. He takes the gimmies, man. He's accurate in the quick game. And then once you start pressing, they throw the shots over the top to these 6'4" and 6'3" guys that go and get them. So, you know, I think the thing that kind of jumped out to me is they've got 25 passing touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, they'll run the ball, and then you get down in the red zone, goal zone, and then they're going to throw it in the end zone, and they make plays on it. So, it's I think this guy's a heck of a player. I think he exemplifies probably what their team, what they want it to be. You know, he's a tough dude at quarterback. He don't slide. He don't run out of bounds. He plays the game. You know, I love the way he plays. You know, you watch him play. He runs the show back there. He plays with like elite toughness, but he's a quarterback. I mean, like I said, they've got a good plan. If you're going to play off and give it to them, they're just going to take gimmies. And then if you come up and press, they're going to throw it over your head and let the big guys make a play. And I think it's right in his wheelhouse. So, again, you know, I have a lot of respect for Coach Huff. I think he and his staff have done a phenomenal job this year. You know, I mean, hell, they're kind of like us, right? Nobody thought they were going to do anything this year. So, you know, that's the Sun Belt, I guess. But I think they've done a great job with this team, and the quarterback's no exception.
Cajuns head coach Michael Desormeaux talking about Herd quarterback Braylon Braxton, who, like I said, he's the newcomer of the year in the Sun Belt, but he came from Tulsa, where he threw for 1,100 yards in 2022, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and then obviously transferring in with Marshall this season. How much of a headache do you think that's going to be for the Cajuns to try to stop a dual threat quarterback that, yes, he can, you know, put it through the air, but he can use his legs as well? I
think it'll be very tough because, like I said, they struggle with it with Tulane, you know. So it's like, what are we going to see? Are you going to see the best of him running the ball or the best of him throwing the ball? Now, I think the rain may have a factor in it because I don't think anybody really wants his drop back, you know, set it and forget it. But I think with what he was saying about Braylon, like he's going to use, like he uses his legs a lot. He's a heck of a running back. I think that's what we're going to see a lot. I think what the game plan will probably be for Marshall will be a lot of read option stuff. Because I think the running back, you know, he's talented as well. But again, with Braylon and him in the backfield, that's what it is. So the UL's challenges will be playing the keys, being eye disciplined, and getting to making sure everybody play their role. If the linebacker, if the DN is signed to the quarterback and linebacker is signed to the running back, making sure vice versa, or the safety's coming down the rover, whoever it may be. So again, it's going to be in that nature. That'll be the biggest factor. But I do think they can cause problems if they don't play their keys correctly. It's going to come down to playing their keys.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. It's going to have to be, you know, eye discipline, alignment and assignment, you know, filling the gaps and making the plays that you're supposed to, no missed tackles, and just cleaning up. Like we talked about, you know, early in the season after Tulane put up the effort that they did rushing for 272. I said and you know, Coach Dez said it too. That's on tape now. Like people are going to see that you can't stop the run. They're going to keep trying to run it on you. So I'm almost certain that Marshall will come out early on and will give them a dose of the run game, whether that's through Braylon or through their running backs. They're going to give you an opportunity very early on to see if you're going to make a play in the hole or if they're going to be able to go and make plays and keep the drives rolling. Last soundbite that we'll hear from Coach Dez, and then we'll move on to Coach Charles Huff, talking about defensive lineman Mike Green, who, like we said, won Sunbelt Player of the Year with, my goodness, 16 sacks, 76 total tackles. He even had a pass deflection in there, three forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. The guy played one season at Virginia and then made his way to Marshall. And I believe those 16 sacks leads the entire country. So, we said it when Ahmad Hardy, we heard that he was going crazy, and we said that he probably was going to hit the portal. Marshall fans, I know that Coach Huff said earlier that he's probably going, they're fighting their way to make sure he stays. But if you lead the country in sacks, he's going to get some phone calls. So here's Coach Dez talking about Mike Green.
Well, I mean, the guy's got a ton of tools. He's probably the most unique player in the league, from everyone that I've seen, just, being honest. He's big, he's long, he's twitched up. I think he's physical. He's got a multitude of moves. I mean, he can beat you with speed. He's kind of got that Euro step down that everybody's doing a little bit. He can go speed to power, and he can get in your chest, and he can drive it back. He's a problem, one-on-one. No one's had success blocking him one-on-one yet. So, certainly we're going to have to be prepared and have a plan for him. Do as much as you can to try to provide some help there. But I think they do. I think they do a hell of a job, though. They don't leave him stationary. They don't put him in one spot. He's in a different spot every time, and you get the third downs, and he's certainly all over the place. So, I think the kid is tremendously talented, but he plays really, really hard too. On top of all that, and then I think you couple it with, a staff that does a great job. They put him in position to be successful. It's hard to pinpoint where he's going to be at. You can't really pick your matchups. They do a good job of picking that. So, it's gonna require some guys to really be dialed in, really be locked in, and I mean, more than anything, strain and play with a lot of effort to try to, extend the down as long as you can.
That's Diz talking about Sunbelt Player of the Year, Mike Green. When you got a guy that's getting 16 sacks, you're gonna have to chip him a couple of times, or if you're not telling your tackles that you gotta handle business, you're putting in plans and figuring out ways to chip him and get him off of his game and slow him down a little bit, getting the ball out extremely quick. Quick game is going to be very vital. Slants, drags, quick screens and things of those nature. I think the follow-up question to this was, how do you not get outside of your own scheme that you like to do, just because there is a dynamic player there on the field, which is something that they're going to have to do too. Like, if you want to run stretch and he's on the left side, you got to be able to say that we still going to run it that way, even though he's over there. Now, obviously, early on that you'll probably run away from him to start off with, but you have to play to win, and you can't play not to lose. You know what I mean? So Mike Green, like I said, will be somebody that we'll be keeping an eye on in that game as well. So.
Yeah, I think so. I think Mike Green is like you said, keep an eye on him. I'm just interested to see how Bears play calls. Like you said, does he go away from him early? Does he run right at him early? What does he do to get things underway? Because at the end of the day, you can't show no fear in football. No matter what you do, you can't show any fear in football. So, what is your game plan? Is it coming at him early, or is it letting go? But like you said, man, Mike Green is going to, the trenches got to win this ball game. So one of the guys they got to, probably contain is Mike Green. I'm not saying that they could do it for 4 quarters, but they could do it in important parts of the game, of a third down, of just holding them for a big play, of taking a shot. So Chandler could have a nice throw down the field, or if Chandler could be Chandler, running around, pointing up, throwing, whatever he can do, if he can evade him a couple of times. So it's going to come down to just players making plays. That's all it's going to come down to.
No doubt. Let's switch gears now and go to the other side of the field, the Marshall Thunder and Herd. Like we said, they're 9-3 on the season. That 9th victory that they got was something pretty interesting. You know, we caught the back half of the game, but originally James Madison was up 17-0 going into halftime. Marshall scored 17 in the third quarter, tied it up there in the third. They went into overtime and they won the ball game 35-33. Coach Huff was asked about what that victory said about his team, and here's what he had to say.
It says we're probably not the fifth best team in the Sun Belt, which is where a lot of you guys had us picked. Which I didn't
have a vote.
I saw your vote there at your job. You had it on the work at the coffee station. You had it kind of underneath. No, I say that. It says, you know, I use that a lot with our guys, that, you know, no one can rank, or no one can evaluate what's inside your shoulder pads. And that's the heart that you show up with. That's the intensity and focus you practice with. And when you have that, it doesn't matter what the outside circumstances say. And I use that as the outside circumstances being the scoreboard. And that's an external factor. In that game, we knew we hadn't played up to our level of potential. We went in at halftime. It wasn't a panic. You know, we made the adjustments, and it actually came down to we just weren't doing our jobs. You know, we were a little hesitant. You know, guys had their eyes in the right place, but they wouldn't pull the trigger. I didn't think we were as physical as we needed to be in the first half. And we just told the guys, just relax. You know, you guys got us here by playing really, really tough, physical, and the discipline. And, you know, ultimately, we went out and played with a lot more, you know, confidence in what we were doing, a lot more trust in our teammates, a lot more energy, and we executed better. Momentum is a dangerous thing, and kind of once we got the ball rolling. But I will say that the mentality of whether we were in it, didn't believe, weren't going to make a play, never wavered from the time we stepped on the field. And that's what happens. If you can keep that belief and you can keep improving, and ultimately you got to execute. That's what it comes down to at some point. But if you can do that, special things can happen.
Charles Huff there talking about Marshall's 35-33 victory over James Madison there in the final week of the regular season there in double overtime to get here and clinch the berth to their first Sun Belt championship game. And that gives them, I think, winners of their final 6 games. So they're coming in extremely hot. You know, Elijah, when you're a team that has a lot of, you know, momentum rolling into a championship game, how much can that help you being in that position?
Tremendously. So you have all the confidence in the world, especially you know, going down 17-0 in a pretty much of a do or die game of getting you here. You're going down 17-0 at halftime, and then you come back, score 17 in the third, and then win that game in overtime. It's, you know, as a team right now, you're just thinking you can't do no wrong. You can't do no wrong because you won the last 6. You were picked the fifth best team. You prove yourself time and time, week again. And then now you just got one more time to prove yourself on the road for a conference championship. So right now, your confidence is right through the roof. You're thinking to yourself, we can do anything. We can beat anybody. And I expect that from the first play when they get out there. I mean, obviously everybody's going to feel like that, even including UL. But from Marshall's stand, from what they're going through, you know, I think that right now they have the most confidence probably in the Sun Belt right now. Well, right now in their room, they have the confidence is really, really high. So I think that, you know, these last 6 games, with them coming back from a deficit, hey, you let the chips fall where they are because they're rolling. They're rolling. You can't say anything about they're rolling.
No doubt, man. And, you know, Coach Huff has come into this program and given these guys something to believe in, and that's why they're in this position. This team is no slouch. He even said, like, you know, there's no such thing as a bad team in a championship game because you get there because you're playing good. So if you're a good football team, you've done all the necessary things to get to the point where you are. And that's why they are here, because they know how to win ball games when it matters. And, you know, on Saturday, the only thing that it will ultimately come down to is, you know, not what you've done in the past, but what you're going to do on that particular day, and may the best team win. In 2021, when the Cajuns and the Herd played in the New Orleans Bowl and the press conference leading up to the game, I can't remember if I asked the question, but a question was asked to Charles Huff of, the magnitude of the talent of the program that UL produced. And I remember he gave the bite. He said, they're good. They're really, really good. He kept saying it over and over again. He kept saying that they're good. So I asked him about it. I said, now that you've let some time pass over and you've seen this team from a distance, is this program still really, really good? And here what's his answer.
Still really good. And I don't think they've ever taken a step back. I think they've had a couple of seasons where injuries have, kind of limited some of the things that they've been able to do. You can tell there's a culture there. Back when we played them in 21, they were big, they were physical. They had playmakers at the skill position. They came here in 22, kicked our tails because they were big and physical, and had playmakers at the skill position. When you turn the film on now, they're big, they're physical, and they got playmakers at the skill position. You can tell there's been a philosophy in recruiting there. The types of bodies that they've recruited over the last 3 years that we've seen them. You can tell that there is a philosophy and a culture of toughness. They beat people up. That's one thing that they do. When you watch the games, they just wear you down. You can tell from a coaching perspective that they're well coached. It's not a lot of, we play these teams and it's like high school Harry. It's a muddle in the middle of the field. It's a throwback. They ain't doing none of that crap. It's real football. Line it up and run the ball at you, and then throw the ball behind you. That's what they do. That's real football. They don't need the tricks and the gimmicks and let me line up in this fancy formation and, and look to the sideline and snap the ball. This is real blackjack versus thunder. They line up and they kick people's tail. And that's a lot of credit to Coach D and the staff. That's a lot of credit to the players. They're very consistent in what they do. You can tell they have a system. The systems make sense on both sides of the ball. You don't see their guys out of position very often. They don't make a lot of mistakes. I'm not sure what their, penalty and turnover ratio is, but I can bet it's probably low, just because championship teams typically are low in those areas. So it's going to be a true championship football game that they have not gotten to where they are this year or the years past by circumstance or, the scenario game. If, these three teams lose and this team over here quits and this team over here loses 7 guys, the ineligibility, then we're in the championship. No, they've gone about it the hard way. They've earned everything they've gotten. And it's going to be a challenge for us.
Talk about some sound bites there. Hey, Mike Green, or excuse me, not Mike Green, Charles Huff. He gonna say what he got to say. He gonna put his foot on it.
He looked like when he said it, they're not doing anything special. They're just gonna run the ball at you and throw it behind you.
That's who UL is, man. He's right. They want to run the football. If they're gonna run some stretch, here it come. If they're gonna run play action pass, they're gonna fake it. Here come Lance LeJean. Here come Harvey Broussard. He said they're big, they're physical, and they have great players at the skill position. He's right. They've got big guys up front. They got the Antoine Baylesses. They've got the Jordan Lawsons. They've got the Mason Narcisse up front on offense. Landon Burton, AJ Gilly, Jax Harrington, King McGowan, Bryant Williams, and then the skill positions. Lance LeJean, Harvey Broussard, Jacob Bernard. On defense, Tyree Skipper, Tyrone Lewis, Cody Jackson, Keon Martin. They got the dudes. And like he said, that is a part of the culture that they've built there within that program. So the Herd are keeping an eye on that as they head into this championship Saturday. We're going to round things out real quick, though. The final thing that we'll talk about, Coach Huff, obviously when teams have success, they get courted by bigger programs, especially when you're a Power 5 or, a Group of 5 school being courted by Power 5 or Power 4 teams. I was not familiar with the fact that Coach Huff was the running backs coach at Penn State when Saquon Barkley was there, until he talked about it during his press conference. So he has experience in coaching at Power 4 schools. But, there's been a lot of rumors and conversations behind closed doors on whether or not he will be back there with the Marshall Thunder and Herd next season. And here's what his answer was to the speculations that's been going on around his job, and whether he will be back next season.
Question. Obviously, there is contract talks that need to be had. I will say this: I've never been a coach that likes to have those discussions during the year, because I do think it takes away from focus when you start having contract discussions, because it's not will you go to the prom with me, circle yes or no, right? Contract discussions are what does it look like long term for each party. Contract discussions are what does it look like for your staff? What does it look like conference-wide, right? So those things take research and time. So I've never liked to get into those conversations during the season, because again, if I'm researching how much money ULL is spending in recruiting and how much money other schools are spending in operation budget, I'm not getting my guys ready to play. Because of that, obviously those conversations have to be delayed. Because we're playing good, that delay is even longer. But I do, the administration here and myself have had conversations about, we understand, this is going longer than typical. We understand there is going to have to come a time we have this discussion, but right now we all, myself, Brad, Christian, the board, everybody involved thinks it's best we focus on this game. It's not going to change whether we put something on paper today or, 2 days after the game or whenever that is. Right now, they said it to me, Coach Huff, you need to be focused on this game, and which I agree with. So to answer your question, we haven't gotten there yet because we're playing so well.
Whatever he got to say, he's going to say it.
I'm trying to hold my laughing, but I haven't gotten there yet because we're playing so well. I like that, bro.
It's real. That's real, man. So Charles Huff making it clear that right now all he's focused on is winning a conference championship there for his team, the Marshall Thunder and Herd. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to make score predictions on what we think the final score will be here in the Sun Belt Championship game, and then we'll get out of here, guys. So Elijah, you have the floor. What's the final score, and who is hoisting the trophy at the end of the night?
I think it will be a back and forth game. Two teams going to hit the end zone a couple times. Seeing the pylons. I'm going to be there with a camera like this. But no, I think that it's going to be 31-27 UL. I think defensively they get the final stand. And that's how they win this game. Defensively, they get a stop. 31-27. I think the Cajuns, that's how it is. That's how it ends. Defense wins championships. Offense wins ball games. Defense wins championships. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. They get the final stop in a high-scoring game of 31-27.
Well, we are going to be picking extremely closely because my prediction is also UL getting the victory with the final score being 31-28. I think that it will come down to the leg of Kenny Almendarez. I don't know if it will be a game-winning kick. I don't know if it'll be a kick late into the game and the defense has to get a stop. But I think that his leg will be important in the victory for the Ragin Cajuns to be hoisting the championship game, hoisting the championship trophy after the game. So we shall see as Louisiana and Marshall will duke it out for the Sun Belt Championship there at Cajun Field on Saturday, December the 7th, as we're dropping this episode for you on Friday morning. We thank you guys so much for tuning in, for listening in wherever you're at, wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you watch it. If you're watching this episode and you've gotten to this point, please hit the bell down below and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this podcast, please give us a follow on whatever platform you listen to your podcast. We would greatly appreciate that. Give us a review, give us a comment, all of those things down below. Like it, share it, all of that good stuff. So, Elijah, you got any other thing, man?
I don't have anything, man. I was ready for this game, bro. I was ready for this game, man. That's all I'm ready for. Game time, baby. Can't come fast enough. on, bro.
Absolutely, man. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, signing out for Elijah Nixon, I am Jamarcus Fitzpatrick. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching this clip of the Fitz Take podcast. Be sure to like this video and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also follow me and Elijah on our social media platforms. They will be linked down in the description. And remember, every episode of the Fitz Take podcast will air right here on the YouTube channel every Monday at 2 p.m. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.